am honored to introduce you today. And a short bio of him, Representative Walt Blackman is the Republican who won the 2018 midterm general election for state representative for the 6th legislative district. With this election win, Walt is the first African American in the history of Arizona elected to the Arizona House of Representatives. Walter Blackman served in the United States Army for 21 years and retired in 2016. The same year, Blackman founded WB Inclusion and Diversity Consulting as well as the WB Victim Advocacy Inc. in 2018. Walt continues to serve his community by volunteering his time to educate young adults and students in the prevention of sexual harassment and assault in his district and across the state. Please put your hands together to welcome Representative Walt.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Good.
So she mentioned about it's been very busy down at the State House. She should have been there yesterday. It was a zoo.
Yeah.
Wow. What we did, we lifted the ceiling for education, and which will allow us to put more money in the education budget. Teacher raises and also making sure the infrastructure for our schools are covered. And it was funny. When we lifted that cap, which takes 3/4 vote, and it also has to go through the Senate, the Democrats were upset with that, so that was kind of amusing to watch that. But they walked it back and ended up voting, some of them ended up voting for this. So there's supposed to be like a clicker or something like that? Oh, sorry. Appreciate that. That's right there? Okay, all right. As many of you know, I'm vice chair of the Judiciary Committee, among other committees. And judiciary is very important to me because it deals with our laws, our criminal justice laws in Arizona. As you know, we have 42,000 people in our prisons right now, not to count the total population in our county jails. All of them funnel through. We have a budget of $1.1 billion for our prison system, and that will increase this year. We also have a rising increase of female inmates that are entering our system. So there seems to be a problem or a choke neck that we're not looking at. So let me, okay, I didn't do this until I was in the military. When I was in the military, I used to do this because I was a clicker dude. I've been out for a little bit, so I lost some training. Okay, so what I'm really concentrating on is recidivism. Because the issue is what we do in the prison system and to keep them out, to keep our community safe, and to make sure that our victims are not affected by any earned release credits. So that's just a quote that I found. We are a redeeming country. President Trump said it in his State of the Union address some years ago. And it's important in our communities that we understand that. Some of the folks need to be in there, don't get me wrong. However, there are some, 87% of the folks that are in prison right now are in there because of a drug issue. Now, we have serial drug offenders that have been caught up in our system on repetitive crime or repetitive issues, and instead of being in prison, some of them should be in substance abuse counseling. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there was a commander sitting in the back of the room, they would say, I can't see it. Okay, all right. So you can read for yourself. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. Okay? These are the hard facts. I talked about the budget that we are spending. That's going to increase to 1.1 or 1.2 this year. It'll be your tax dollars. 42,000, we have a 500 increase of inmates that are in prison right now. 1 out of every 3 inmates leaving the Arizona prison system right now return within 3 years. So that's a big problem, and that's why I'm getting into the reduction rate. And how do we judge that? How do we measure that? What programs do we need that are laser focused, targeted, individually targeted to keep these folks out? And that's where the business community comes in, because a lot of these folks are developing skills that you may or may not use, but the perception is when you are trying to hire some of these former inmates is that they are felons. And so some of the skill sets are being lost because of that. So I just remind you of that. The prison population in Arizona has increased 52% in the past 10 years, and we are the only state in the union that arrests more Arizonans per capita than any other state in the union. So it's safe to say that 5 of you in here know someone who is incarcerated, at least 5. It's safe to say at least 3 of you have a family member that have been incarcerated or are incarcerated now. And it's safe to say that at least 1 of you have had some sort of issue with the criminal justice system. That's data. Those are facts. I don't know who you are. Don't raise your hand. You're on camera. Don't do that. I don't want to get nobody fired over here. You know, when you admit stuff like that, you know, people like, they say, oh, I understand, but everybody watches you when you walk out the door. All right, so this is the background of what I'm talking about. Again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. We know the president had a bipartisan act with the First Step Act. My legislation, my criminal justice reform package follows that closely because it's bipartisan, but it's heavily on the conservative side. Because I want to make sure that the folks that we let out of the prison systems are the right people, not the wrong people. Like in Oklahoma, we know that the governor signed a bill and it just opened the door and it was a mad rush to the door, sort of like a land rush. And that's not what we want in Arizona. We want to do increment, we want to do slow. In the military, we'd call it crawl, walk, run. We're still at the crawl phase in Arizona. You got to understand, this is a system that has been broke for years. My legislation is not going to change it overnight. It may not even change it over 10 years. However, what I have begun to do is get people to the table and get them to start talking. As you know, in the State of the State, last week the governor mentioned that he is going to close one of the prisons. That's a big step in Arizona for a governor to admit that. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done at the House with that. Okay. Okay. So based on my legislation, about 10,000 folks will be eligible for earned release credit. Now, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about non-dangerous, non-violent, repeated drug offenders. And let me do another caveat. Possession only. Possession only. I'm not talking about dealers. I'm not talking about folks that make it. I'm talking about that college student at ASU that went to a party and is possessing because they happened to smoke a joint or they were smoking something. We have students. Well, from my hometown, there are some folks. There's a kid that's in Prairie View. She was a law student at NAU. She went to a party. She did the wrong thing, smoked some marijuana, had some in her car. Now she's sitting in Prairie View for 8 years. And that's because of truth in sentencing. And when we're talking about repetitive offense, we're talking about the plea bargaining process, which is about 80% of the folks that are going into our prison systems. This young person is in jail, prison, not jail, prison for 8 years. That's what my legislation will point to. We have the wrong people, some of the wrong people that are sitting in prison right now. Okay, tell you what we're looking at. The time earned is 1.5 days per every 6th day. Now, it doesn't mean that they can just go take basket weaving. What they have to do, they have to take courses and they have to take programming that is targeted to their issues. How we do this, we back this up on the assessment phase when they get into the prison system. I'd like to go further and back it up to the county jail when they walk into the county jail. Because everyone comes through the county jail. And I think we should have 2 tracks there, but that's another conversation. So we do an assessment and it is laser focused to the individual. So say we have an individual, the young lady who was in prison, let's say she's a serial drug offender. And they go in front of the court, and because of the way the system is, I've talked to you about the plea bargaining, so on and so forth, the judge has to sentence that person under the mandatory sentencing law of Oh, one thing, San Antonio, jeez. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I grew up in San Antonio. Under truth in sentencing, they have to sentence them. So, what this person can do once they get into the assessment phase is they find out the person has a drug issue. So we put them in drug treatment. We put them in courses. We put them in all these self-developing classes to make sure that they are ready to come out. Now, say the person has a child, young child. One of my bills will increase the visitation time to make sure that that person, that mother, is bonded with that child before they get out. A lot of young people are in prison right now, have infants, and they see them once a week, maybe. What my program does, it increases that visitation time, so when they get out, the expectations are not unreal when they are reconnecting with their family, those children. Okay, so you can read the rest. Okay. Now, you look at the bottom bullet. The bill still requires the inmate to serve their full sentence, but allows them to move through the community supervision program earlier. What does that mean? About 90% of the folks that leave prison leave under a probation tail. Everybody knows what a probation tail is? Okay, we have crazy probation tails like probation for life. All right? The probation tails usually the remainder, the 15% that the inmate serves. So they do the 85 under good time only, which we have right now, they will get out. Now remind you, good time is just sitting around. There's no program that they have to do. So they get out, they're not rehabilitated, they end up on probation, and then they're in our communities. And this is everyone that's in there. What the earned release credit does, again, it targets the folks that have these issues so they can stay out of prison instead of returning. Another problem with probation is that when folks are probation out, for example, if they live up in northern Arizona where I live and they have no family, they have no support group, they have no money except for the $100 that they get out, that they get when they get out, they let them off here in Phoenix, downtown. The person has no vehicle. Let's think about that one. No family, no resources. But they have to report to their probation officer within 72 hours. How does a person make it from Phoenix to Flagstaff or Snowflake, Arizona in 72 hours with no resources? So then a person gets frustrated. And let's say this is a non-violent offender. They get frustrated. They can't get a ride just to make it to their probation. Week passes, they're a probation technicality, they end up back in prison. That is our system. That's one part of our system that is broken. We have more folks that are returning to prison because they can't make it to their probation officer. What I want to do is put the probation officer in the prison as a last step before they get out. That's their check. Bam. That is their first meeting. And then they have 60 days to make it to their probation officer, but they have other resources to make sure that they are there. Okay? So, we'll kind of diverge a little bit. We can look at that. These are some of the solutions. I've written a bill, number one, that does just this. It's a check on learning to see what we're doing. This is a 4-year survey that we will take for a targeted group of people that are entered or that return to Arizona, and we find out what's helping for them. But we're talking about two groups. The group that is targeted and the group that doesn't take, or the group that's not under programming. To compare the two. The ones that are under the programming are partnered with businesses, partnered with off-site drug counseling, education, so on and so forth. The ones that are not are the ones that just serve the 85% and sit around and do the good time. The ones without resources. And we compare, I want to compare the two. So I have proven data that my bills work. Inmate prisoners, I talked about number 2 a little bit. And this is also, there's also an issue in one of our prisons when we're talking about women's health. We have a one-size-fits-all in our prison systems for women. Women are on different cycles. Now, for some women that are in prison, that are going through their cycle, they need additional sanitary equipment, if you will. I'm a soldier, so I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm a tank commander, and I just tore it all up. So. My wife is probably somewhere saying, "Oh my gosh, did you let him get up there and say that?" We know that one size doesn't fit all for most women. However, in our institutions, they get 2 sanitary pieces of equipment a month. One roll of toilet paper to last them for the month. That's in Prairie View. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems a little bit unreasonable to me, because one size does not fit all. So we're looking at it now. I'll be going to Prairie View in a couple weeks to actually look through there again. It'll be my 3rd time there. Talk to some of the inmates that are there and look at the program. Criminal justice data reporting. What we need to do in Arizona for legislators, we need to have a one-stop shop where all that data is put into one area, ACJC. And then we can pull from the data to build our bills. We haven't really done that. We're getting data from all over. For example, Chandler is collecting one type of data, and Holbrook is collecting another type of data. In statutes now, they don't have to report everything. What this does, this requires and mandates cities throughout Arizona to report that. Is it a burden on the city? No, it's not, because they're already doing it. All they're going to do is send it to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General interprets it and then sends it to ACJC. We talked about probation technicalities. We talked about this right here. I am appropriating $9.2 million to pay for this. Because I know in the back of your mind, some of you are saying, well, how are you going to pay for all these wonderful, great programs? You're not paying for it. The DCO is going to pay for this. Where does this money come from? If you ever had to call a prisoner in our Arizona system, they have a thing called service fees. And the Arizona DOC collects these fees. And phone calls are skyrocketed. So if you call somebody for like 5 minutes, you're probably paying about $50-60 for that phone call. The service fees from that go into DOC. What I am doing in 2024 with an agreement with the approach tier, this dollar amount right here starts going to the fundamental programming that is set forth. When I started my ad hoc committee, one of my requirements to my subcommittee is that I do not want to raise taxes. And that's what this does. It's not raising your taxes, and it's not going to be a burden to your city. And also, the last thing we're doing is the Corrections Oversight Committee on Ombudsman duty. And that's where they are appointed by the governor, and they are a team that will go into our prison systems. They will do unannounced inspections. They'll also go into our probations and juvenile systems. All right, so we're going to move forward because I think I'm behind my time. I'm getting the deal there. We'll just go to the bottom. Okay. Okay, real quick, questions, and you can follow the agenda that I've set by going to the House website. I've worked very closely with the governor's office, the Attorney General's office, and also prosecutors around the state and everywhere else. So, are there any questions so I can get these other folks on? Yes, ma'am.
We're here for workforce. Are you also looking, oh, good. You know what, I'll just speak loudly. We're here for workforce. Are you also working to see what companies would be willing to hire some of these people that are coming out that weren't violent? They didn't murder anybody, they didn't rape anybody, but boy, they really need a job. I know Hickman's Eggs they hire a lot of felons. I'm gonna have one of them on my anchor, someone from Hickman Eggs is gonna be on my Anchor Moment show to actually share about that. And when they give them a job, they don't go back. They come in, they work for Hickman's, and then they never go back to jail because they're getting that help. And then they also looked at, if you're gonna drop a prisoner off with $100 in Phoenix, and they need to be in Flagstaff in 3 days, why are we not dropping them off in Flagstaff if that's where their thing is? And then they have 3 days that, I don't know, but maybe, but at least they could walk to it, and get it like where they're close to where they're supposed to be. Because that's crazy, because we're paying for it. The gas
Is there a
for
question
Phoenix
in
to, the gas for Phoenix to Flagstaff, it just doesn't make any sense.
Is there a
It'd be
question?
cheaper to pay the tax. Are you looking for corporations to help give these people jobs?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you're looking for corporations, what kind of vocations is going into each one of these prisoners so that they can acquire these credits? Or
What
how
kind
are
of
these-
location or vocation?
Vocation.
That's part of the targeting. So what we do is, like, if you own a business, and whatever business you own, say you own a computer business, software business, what we will do as part of their advanced program is that we will have targeted that individual. And if they have experience in doing that, or if that's an interest to them, we marry them up with you long before they are eligible to get out. So you build that relationship with them while they were in, not as soon as they get out, I show up at your door and say, hey Sam, I need a job. You develop that relationship and you develop that trust. Now what I want to do that is that not mirrors Hickman, because I really don't agree with their model, because there are some issues with Hickman, I believe. What I want to do is that last 120 days, that last 3 months, is I want that inmate to be able to start making the regular wages. Because if you work at Hickman and you are on work release, you're only making about 50 cents a day. How can a person manage their finances as they get, I think, is it 50 cents a day or 50 cents an hour or something like that?
It'd have to be more than that, because you can't even buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's for
Okay, these people are still incarcerated. They don't have McDonald's.
Oh, but once they get out of the incarceration, they hire them. So they're doing that.
Okay, let's play this scenario. Let's play this scenario.
Hire them.
I'm working at Hickman's.
Okay,
Okay, while I'm in.
okay.
I get out. How much money do I have? Do I have money to turn on the phone? Do I have money to get an apartment? Do I have money to get bus tickets? Do I have money to do this? My program does that. I don't agree with some of the things that Hickman is doing because they are not going backwards in that. I want to start 3 months and start that relationship with the financial piece. So that person can put money in a savings account that they can't touch. And then when they walk out the door, they have more than $100 in their pockets. In the event they have to do those things. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to ask about the Arizona Home Builders. I know they have a program too. Is that, you endorse that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because what they do is, they go a step further. They will give the person a place to live. But they're paying at a smaller rate when we're talking about rent. We have to understand, the things that we take for granted, that's big hurdles for some of these folks. So.
Thank you. I have to cut it short today
Yeah, I'm
because
sorry.
we have a full agenda. No
Yeah.
problem. We appreciate everything you
Appreciate
say.
you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to introduce Brian Fox, who will introduce our next speaker, please.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Brian Fox. I do the government relations and public policy here at the Chamber. Our next speaker, Michael Weishart, is the Assistant Director for the Department of Economic Security. Michael Weishart currently oversees the Division of Employment and Rehabilitation Services and as an Assistant Director. He previously served as an Assistant Director for the Division of Benefits and Medical Eligibility prior to that, as Deputy Assistant Director within DES of Division of Children, Youth, and Families. He has also served both as the CFO and Administrator for the DES Financial Services Administration, so please help us welcome Michael Weishart.
Good morning, everyone. Tough to follow Representative Blackman there, but hopefully I can help answer some of the questions that he had during his conversation. All right, thank you. See if I can handle the clicking duties. As Brian mentioned, I'm the Assistant Director for the Division of Employment and Rehabilitation Services. And really what I want to talk to you all about this morning is how we can partner as an employer community and as a public service entity looking to help individuals connect with jobs. And so we're going to talk about many populations, including those that are either currently incarcerated or formerly justice involved. When you think about a lot of our public service offices, our job center one-stops, a lot of people that present for services have justice involvement. So we go through the collateral contact, I need some water, the collateral contact checklist to make sure that we're checking off as many of those as possible. And so we're going to get a little bit into that population, but I really want to touch on a number of populations and how we can figure out strategies to partner so that we can continue to move the unemployment rate in Arizona downward, and really beyond moving the Arizona unemployment rate downward, because we all kind of know some of the fallacies with that particular statistic. Another thing that we'd like to do is get people that have been disenfranchised from the job market at all back into the job market. Because one of the things I know in my 20 years of human services work is that when the Great Recession hit, we had a number of families, especially Arizona families, that wrapped their lives around the basket of government goods and services that they could receive, and haven't re-engaged into the job market since that negative event. So we got to figure out a way to get those folks back into the job market. All right, now we're having fun. So Arizona at Work is the brand name by which we operate our public service employment program. So you'll see this in all of your local communities. There's a one-stop down here in Gilbert, but just outside of Chandler. So it's available for Maricopa County residents. But we operate a number of programs through those one-stops. We operate programs for veterans, where we help about 1,000 or so veterans get employment per year. So we partner with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We help disabled veterans specifically, but all veterans that present get priority service. And so that's a huge program for us. We have unemployment insurance, so folks that lose their jobs through no fault of their own, they can get a meager benefit, but a benefit nonetheless, so that they can maintain their standard of living while they look for a new job. We have tribal partnerships, youth build, trade adjustment. So these are people that lost their jobs because their job went overseas, and now they need to be retrained to do something that's here in our community. Seniors services, temporary assistance for needy families. I think most people are familiar with that program for low-income households with children. Migrant seasonal farm work are a huge part of the Arizona economy. And then some additional programs with specific bureaucratic names that continue to help folks connect with employment. The core programs, adult dislocated worker. So dislocated workers, again, folks that lost their jobs because their jobs don't exist anymore. So you think about what's happening with technology. This is going to be a huge deal for us going forward as we figure out how to manage through jobs being automated away. Self-checkout in every grocery store and Walmart everywhere. And then those were people's jobs 5-10 years ago. So while technology is obviously good, we're going to have to figure out how to deal with the disruption. Adult education, Wagner-Peyser's basic employment services for individuals. We like to put bureaucratic words that don't mean anything, but Wagner and Peyser were two Congress people from like 1930. The vocational rehabilitation program, which we'll get into a little bit further. Again, for us, we recognize in our program, and really this is something that's changed since I came into employment 3 years ago. When I came into employment 3 years ago, I talked to my team and said, what do we do every day? And they say, we help job seekers get training. And they go to these various classes and they get these various services. And I'm like, that's great. What happens to them? No, you didn't hear us. We provide services to job seekers. And I said, that's great. What's the outcome? So what we've done over the past few years, and I'm really asking for your help in this space, is we recognize that it doesn't really matter what we do with the job seekers if there's no employer on the back end that wants to hire that person with those skills. So for us, in our services, the customer of our work is the employer. And so what I need is continuous feedback from you all on what we can do better to help train people to take jobs that you have available. And I know you all have jobs available. You know, there are a number of jobs, something like 150,000 jobs available in Arizona. There are something like 100 to 150,000 people looking for work. The problem is the people looking for work don't even come close to matching the skill set you need for the jobs that are available. So what do? We keep gathering information, we keep tailoring training programs, we keep leveraging these programs that you see on the screen in order to try to bridge that gap. It's going to take time. It took us time to get here. It's going to take time to unwind it. But heaven forbid we have a downturn in the economy and this labor market becomes less tight. No one wants that to happen, so we got to figure out how to bridge that gap. I'm glad there's clocks on both sides of the room too, so I can try to stay on time. We'll see how this goes. One of my favorite programs that we operate is an apprenticeship program. And when most people think apprenticeship, they think, you know, bricklaying or pipe fitting or welding. And those are great, we have those. Lots of home building apprenticeship programs, lots of what you would consider traditional apprenticeship programs. But one of the best ways, I think, to create a pipeline into your company is to set up a registered apprenticeship program where we identify with your company individuals that would qualify for your program, and then we help facilitate the training through them moving up and developing the skills that are going to be necessary to succeed. You can see, I came into employment in June of 2016. We had about 3,000 registered apprentices. This has been a tremendous focus for us. We hit 5,000 for just a hot minute, but it is like currently enrolled, so these are not all people, like every one of those points on the line, they completed their apprenticeship program. So this is not like cumulative people that participated, this is currently enrolled. So you can see we've really grown the program. And that's through non-traditional apprenticeship opportunities. That's through apprenticeship in industries like insurance and water and health. So it's something that we continue to look for opportunities. We partner with CVS, we partner with Liberty Mutual. These are not traditional apprenticeship pathways. The other thing that we're trying to do is grow the number of female apprentices. It's still really woefully low and unfortunate. So anything we can partner on to grow that is something that we would be really, really interested in doing as we move forward as well. That's a huge opportunity to create a pipeline of skilled labor for your particular industry. The other thing is, when folks come in and get that training from an industry, we know that they have a much, much higher tendency to stay. And given the disposition of many, especially young workers, and their propensity to jump from one job to the other, this I think is really tremendous for the development of a long-term labor force for many industries. So a really important program. We have, if you want to connect on apprenticeship, you can reach out to me, or you can connect through the online services or go to one of the job fairs, or we're happy to create a customized, tailored apprenticeship program on your behalf and with your involvement. So it's something that I have this wonderful individual from Northern Ireland that was a bricklayer. He has a wonderful accent. His name's Willie Higgins. If you get a chance to hear him speak, he's so passionate about this. But we'd be happy to have him come and speak to any of you if you are interested. Touching a little bit on the work that we're doing to reduce incarcerated individuals. So certainly appreciate the investment and passion of Representative Blackman in this area. It's something that is massively important to me and us as well. One of the coolest initiatives I've been involved in public service is this collaboration that we've had with the Department of Corrections on trying to reduce recidivism by helping individuals achieve employment outcomes before they leave prison. So Hickman has been a great partner. You know, there's always opportunities for improvement in the way that the programs operate, but you know, they've been a good partner. The Home Builders Association has been an amazing partner in this space. A number of industries have taken advantage of the services. But we have 3 what are called second chance centers inside the walls of the prison, where folks in their last 8 weeks of incarceration participated in an intensive job skill development program. And we focus more heavily on the soft skills than we do on the hard skills. So generally speaking, you know, folks that are incarcerated have over time through their work programs developed some amount of you know, hard skill that they can use, or they're being hired into an industry where the training time is reasonably short. But they really are struggling with the soft skills on how to interrelate with their individuals that they're going to be working with. So we spend a lot of time on that. It's been great. We also have services for individuals that are already in the community. So community-based reemployment centers that are co-located, generally speaking, with parole offices. So folks go in to meet with their parole officer, and we have employment counselors right there in that same building in order to help those folks navigate their employment needs as well. One of the coolest things that we've been able to do, and this is an area where I'm looking for any kind of creative solutions that folks can come up with, is transportation. So we obviously have barriers associated with getting folks trained and prepared for the workforce. And then we have barriers with housing. I think you're all familiar with that. There's you know, a dearth of low-income housing, period. And you know, transitional housing is even a bigger issue, because while everyone in the world wants transitional housing, they just don't want it in their neighborhood. So this is great. So what neighborhood does it go in? You know, that's a struggle that we have. So then what happens is folks get placed in the low-income or transitional housing that's available, but that's not close to the jobs. That's not where, you know, construction's happening, or, you know, where their job is. So how do we get them from their housing to their job? One of the cool things we've been able to do is partner with Lyft. Their first corporate platform didn't work for us at all. It was way too labor intensive, and too many people were missing rides, because these folks come out of prison, generally speaking, without a cell phone. So we had to set all that up. But anyway, Lyft has made massive changes to their corporate platform, which allows us to help folks get set up for rides. Hopefully that'll be a pathway for us to at least provide transportation for folks for a couple of weeks, so that they can get a paycheck, so that they can begin to figure out ways to create permanent transportation solutions. But it's a huge problem, and one that I'm always looking for creative solutions on. But it's been good. The outcome numbers, you know, we've helped over 2,200 folks get jobs. It's been, you know, the recidivism numbers for individuals that leave prison with a job are obviously really good. And, you know, there's sort of twofold pieces to that, right? One, obviously it's good to have a job. That obviously helps with recidivism. The other is those that have really invested themselves and gotten a job are probably more predisposed to not want to go back to prison. But the recidivism is like 14–15%. I'm not sure if it's in one of these slides, but for those that leave prison with a job. So that's, oh, it says right there, 16%. That's something that we're really going to continue to work on. The governor highlighted it in the State of the State. Representative Blackman and others are working on solutions to help us continue with this momentum. So always looking for employer partners. The testimonials from both the individuals that have left prison and changed their life, fully transformed their lives, are amazing. But just as amazing are the testimonials from the employers that have hired these individuals. They will tell us that these are their best employees. They're most dedicated. These people want to work 20 hours a day. They're so enthusiastic and excited about the companies that they work for and the work that they do. You know, we'd love to continue to partner with employers to help folks overcome some of the stigmas and barriers associated with hiring individuals. So we're not just relying on Hickman Eggs, so that there's a different pathway for folks. One of the things we're doing in our Second Chance Center down in Tucson, and then also in the Perryville location for women, is that we've developed a coding program. So it's really cool. These folks are insanely excited. If you get a chance to visit it, it's so much fun because they are so energetic, but they're learning how to code. And you would think, oh, that's probably not good to have incarcerated folks learn how to code, but it's fantastic. So we're finding folks that can get you know, the security clearance that they're going to need in order to be able to do basic coding work. And we have 75 folks enrolled right now. And it's just, these people are going to leave prison with skills that matter in 2020. They're going to leave prison with jobs that pay, coming out of prison, $60,000 a year and upwards, with tremendous opportunities for upward mobility. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. One of the things that employers don't take advantage of that would help with alleviating some of the concern related to hiring individuals that were incarcerated is the federal bonding program. So that's a program we offer where if you hire individuals that were incarcerated, we will back that individual, really the federal government, will back that individual with some insurance. So basically, if they steal from you or cause damage in some way, then there's financial resources to offset those costs. It just doesn't happen. I mean, these people that take these jobs, they don't do, we almost never get a claim. We don't get a lot of folks to take advantage of it in the first place, but when they do, we don't get a claim. So, so that's one thing that's available though, if folks just have a mental block on it. Another thing is the work opportunity tax credit. This is if you hire individuals that are low income or in certain circumstances. As an employer, you have an opportunity to offset some of their wages with a tax credit. We hold a number of job fairs. We will continue to put them out on social media and in other ways for folks to be able to see them. And then we're always happy to create a customized training program for employers that are going to hire individuals that are coming out of either our Second Chance Centers or any of our one-stops, especially if there's going to be a large cohort of folks that get hired. I have no idea how I'm doing on time, so even those clocks everywhere. Okay. Well, see, there you go. But I'd love to take any questions that you
Thank
have.
you. We want to hold the questions to a minimum of 2 questions, please, because we have such a big agenda today, so please continue. Yes, please.
I just wanted to know if you knew why you didn't have enough female apprentices in the program.
I really think it's just long-standing, like people just like have in their minds that apprenticeship is construction, and that's it. And so we really need to collectively do a better job. We need to do a better job on our end, but we need employer partners as well to do a better job at expressing the opportunities of apprenticeship in non-traditional fields. And we collectively need to do a better job at recruiting female apprentices because it is a huge opportunity. Yes, sir.
The apprentices that you send out, how does the company and you make sure that they're getting paid? Is there some kind of formula that you go through to do that?
Yeah, the company actually pays the apprentices. So these are all paid apprenticeship opportunities. So while the individual's in training, they would obviously receive a lesser pay rate than they'll receive as they get trained. But the company, so we set up an agreement with the company to create a pipeline of apprentices for that program and a structured apprenticeship curriculum, and then the company pays that individual as they work through that apprenticeship program.
One more question, please. Anyone? I'll address a question concerning their mental health. Is that being assessed prior to them entering the workforce?
Yeah, there's a lot of work on that, but both with folks that are incarcerated and folks in the community, we do a reasonably poor job at assessing and diagnosing and then managing folks' mental health. So it's still a huge gap that we need to continue to work on. I appreciate you raising it as an awareness factor for us, but it is something that at least we have an understanding from their time in corrections.
Great, thank you very much, Michael, appreciate it. Okay, the introduction of our next speaker, Ruby, would you please take the mic? Thank you.
I'm honored to introduce our next guest speaker, Eric Bopp. He is the Executive Director at the Economic Development at ASU. Eric Bopp leads the economic development efforts of ASU Knowledge Enterprise with a specific focus on the development of the Novus Innovation Corridor and other ASU innovation zones. In his role, he aims to help make Arizona more economically competitive and promote the assets available at ASU to the private sector. Before coming to ASU, Bopp served as a Deputy Director of Strategic Initiatives for the City of Mesa. He also served as a Program Manager for the City of Phoenix, where he directed and implemented projects that support the city's commercial office and industrial development. He was named one of the top 20 leaders under 40 in 2007 by the Blue Ridge Business Journal and as the 2011 Business Executive of the Year by the Pulaski County Chamber of Commerce. Please help me give him a warm welcome.
So you guys have had a lot of content provided to you already today. I'd like to point out there is no such thing as a free lunch. A couple of weeks ago, my good colleague Ward Nichols and Brian with the Chamber invited me to lunch here in downtown Chandler, and I'm like, oh, that's awfully nice of you guys. And a few weeks later, here I am speaking to you today. So I'm an economic development professional. What does that have to do with workforce development? Well, we face workforce development questions all the time. And so I also brought with me a workforce development career services subject matter expert from ASU, Travis Laybeck, who will be speaking to you momentarily, and I appreciate Travis being with you here today, even though he didn't get to partake in the free lunch. So Travis, we get lunch. In the economic development world, we also learn from Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin that when we're working with clients, there's three things you generally don't discuss. That's religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin. Representative Blackman, I'm going to add to that list women's reproductive health. Because, there we go. So, in my time here in Arizona, I've been in Arizona for about 5 years. There's a theme you hear sometimes from employers that are looking for talent, and they say, hey, we can't find anybody. The unemployment rate's anywhere between 3% and 5%, depending on who you talk to. We're really struggling. We just posted an ad on Craigslist. Why don't we have a ton of workers? And you kind of scratch your head and you say, you probably haven't reached out to all the resources that are available to employers here in Arizona to help them acquire talent for their companies. And so I just prepared a very quick list that highlighted a lot of the resources that when we collectively hear employers say, I can't find anybody, there's no good talent here in Arizona. Well, have you talked to Arizona at Work? Well, have you talked to the Arizona Department of Economic Security and their apprenticeship program? Have you talked to the Phoenix Business and Workforce Development Center? Have you worked with Pipeline AZ? Have you worked with Chicanas Por La Calzas and their workforce services? Have you reached out to the East Valley Institute of Technology and started down at the high school level to start working with high school students? Have you reached out to Maricopa Community College and their 180,000 students that they're working with at any given time, and their willingness to create customized programs for employers? Grand Canyon University, they're up to 80,000 students, young people. Great university right in our backyard. Sometimes I think there's a tendency when you get outside of Phoenix Metro proper to forget that we have Grand Canyon in downtown. It's a great resource. Have you reached out to the Arizona Commerce Authority and their Navigator program? Have you talked to the Arizona Advanced Technologies Corridor Project? That's 3 community colleges working together to supply additional advanced manufacturing capabilities and workforce for those 3 counties? Have you reached out to SkillBridge? It's a specific program for when people are leaving active duty military to help them find jobs in the community where they will reside. Have you talked to the Arizona Career Readiness Credential Program? There are a lot of resources for employers. I think we in the economic development world do a very good job when we're courting companies, hey, come to Arizona. Look at all these great programs and services we have. We do a really good job of telling that story when people are coming here, but so often the thousands and thousands of businesses that are already here miss out on some of these great opportunities that are just as accessible to them as they are to the companies that are looking to move to Arizona. So that's one thing I wanted to give a quick overview on, and there's links, and we can send this out at a later date if you have any questions about those programs. Within ASU proper, we're kind of a big university, 110,000 plus students. We've got a very dynamic president as our leader. He will tell you that if a company is struggling with talent, with growing talent, with retaining talent, that they should come and speak to us. Whether it's one of our 30 plus engineering programs, whether it's our School of Business, whether it's our practice labs, there's any of a number of things that ASU can do to help employers find talent. And it doesn't always have to be that ivory tower mentality that you find at some colleges and universities around the U.S. We are not just training rocket scientists. We have student projects that are working on building next generation vehicles, submarines, if you can believe it. We've got a submarine project out at the Poly campus here in the desert of all places. Any of a number of things, ASU is willing to partner with the private sector to help develop additional talent. These are just some of the workforce development resources within the university. And again, I brought one of my colleagues from the Career and Professional Development Services Center to speak with you today about the really cool things that they do and the feedback that they're getting from young people about what type of careers they're looking for, what's meaningful to them. I know when I was in high school, when I went to college, everybody always wanted to know, hey, what's your starting wage going to be if you're an economist? What's the average starting salary if you're going to be a psychologist? What do you expect to make if you're going to be a business person? I think that mindset has changed, and I think Travis can address some of those things. So I'm going to stop speaking with you right now. I'm going to turn things over to Travis to talk about our career and professional development services and the feedback he's hearing firsthand from the young people that are going to college here in Arizona. So Travis, come on up.
Yeah, so my name is Travis Laybeck. I'm an Associate Director of Corporate Partnerships and Alumni Engagement with Career and Professional Development Services. That is a terribly long title, and I hate spitting it out every time. But a big important part of that is the career services part, but likewise the alumni engagement part. So we do offer career services for life for alumni, and so that's something as we're walking through workforce and economic development, thinking about not only the new talent coming out, but how do you likewise cultivate talent that might have a few years experience. So typically when I'm presenting, I like starting with our charter. It's up there, you guys can read it. But one of my favorite parts of our charter is that we're measured not by whom we exclude, but rather whom we include and how they succeed. A lot of universities pride themselves on their low admissions rates. You know, we only admit 5% of our applicants. ASU has taken that and turned it on its head. And as a result, we are an extremely diverse campus. We're one of the leading institutions in the country when it comes to first generation students. And it gives a lot of opportunity and grows the workforce here in Arizona. So as Eric mentioned, ASU is gigantic. We're one of the largest universities in the country. We have about 115,000 or so students enrolled. About 85,000 of those are on one of our 4 campuses across the valley. And then we have another 25,000 students online, but there is a significant portion of those online students that actually reside in Arizona and are just choosing to do their learning online. We gave away 26,000 degrees last year, and we have almost 500,000. It's nearly 500,000 alumni worldwide. About 60% of those alums are here in Arizona. So that's a big, important part of what ASU does. So there's the side of it, okay, Travis, we get it, ASU's gigantic, but what does that mean? Well, we're also very proud of the education we provide. You've seen any of our buses driving around the valley, #1 in innovation. It's actually 5 years in a row now, and we're very proud of it. It's something that is actually part of our culture, and we ingrain in our classrooms and just everything we do. We're also rated by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top 5 schools when it comes to producing qualified graduates. In addition to that, we actually have several highly ranked programs. So whether you're looking for a business student, an engineering student, an accountant, somebody in human services, a person like myself, I like telling my story as part of this, so I'm a psychology major, came out of liberal arts college. Wasn't like put you right into a career, I had to kind of find my career from that. We have lots of highly ranked programs, and we're very proud of the education we provide in addition to having the diverse population and the opportunities for first-gen students. And then there's this side of it. So I'm really proud of what we're doing in career services and how we treat it. So when a person has come to college, to university, or any type of post-secondary education, they've chosen to invest in themselves. They've put their dollars forward, they've put their time forward, and ultimately it's about getting a good paying job when it's all said and done. And we take that seriously, and we make sure that we're good stewards of that investment in themselves. And so part of that is, in addition to making sure that the programs are great and that they're receiving an excellent education, that we're helping them transition to the workforce. So almost 60% of our undergraduate students complete either a work experience that they get credit for, or an internship that they had a paid internship, whether it be over the summer or throughout the year as a part-time role. So that helps supplement their education that they're getting and really gets them ingrained into a workforce. Likewise, almost 70% of our graduate students do the same. So we help students through that. We help them find opportunities to do research, to participate with employers. Eric mentioned practice labs. We have things called capstone projects, which is part of the curriculum that an engineering or business student would take, where they're working with an organization helping them problem solve. You're getting to use the brain power at Arizona State University to help your business, and likewise they're getting experience with real world problems that are out there. So what does it mean in Arizona? One of the most common questions I get when it comes to Arizona State University, well, that's great, you guys are educating a bunch of students, but don't they all leave when they're done? As I mentioned, about 60% of our alumni reside in Arizona. We do have a portion, obviously, that resides around the country, and they're looking for opportunities in different spots, but ASU ultimately brings talent into the state, is what it comes down to. So for the resident students that we have that choose to go work in Washington, D.C., or New York, or wherever their employer of choice is, we bring at least one candidate from out of state or from internationally into the state to be part of our workforce here. So we are a net gain on Arizona's talent, which is great. We have over 13,000 students that are from international countries that choose ASU for their education, and typically they're wanting to stay in the States, and particularly in Arizona for work as well. So I mentioned, we're measured by who we include. ASU is very proud of our freshman student population this year. Our freshman student population is almost nearly identical demographics to the Phoenix metro area when it comes to gender diversity, racial diversity, all the different aspects of it. So it's really neat growth and opportunity for us. So as I mentioned, about 60% of our students stay in Arizona for employment after they graduate, and we have a net gain on Arizona's workforce. This is one of my favorite parts of talking about what we do here, or what we do at Career Services. So, as I mentioned myself, I'm a psychology degree. I graduated from ASU. I was actually highly interested in business. Maybe I should have gone to WB Carey, but I chose the degree program I did, and I've spent my whole career in B2B relationships and corporate partnerships. That's been my whole path as my career. So now when a student comes into our Career Services department, the first question they get asked is not what their degree program is. It's what do you want to do? What are you passionate about? What excites you? And then we help them join what we call career interest communities based off of that. And so then my side is the corporate partnerships, employer relations side. I likewise help employers identify their opportunities and where they fit in this network. So thinking about an organization that is a SaaS organization that's a startup, well, there's a fit in STEM because they typically need computer engineers, that kind of stuff. There's a fit in entrepreneurship. So for our students who join the entrepreneurship category, they have a passion or a thought that maybe they want to own their own business someday, but a lot of the advice we offer them and work them through is, how about you get your feet wet? Work for an organization that is a startup. So you can see the struggles they're going through, how to get investors, how to hire employees, how to invoice, those types of things. It gives them a good environment around that, and then likewise business. The other way this helps you guys is it helps you find that psychology student who's a good salesperson, like myself. So it helps you find that computer engineer who's passionate about sustainability. These are the way we focus on that. It helps you find that criminologist who wants to work in business. This is how we focus on that. Eric mentioned some of the other feedback we're getting from students, and I'll take this time to kind of address that. So Eric mentioned, when he was in school, was asking about salary. When I was in school, my classmates and my friends were, I want to work for Google, I want to work for Amazon. They came into school with names and were trying to get degrees to match those companies and go work for those companies. So I spent some time with our career readiness team, which is our student-facing team, about a month and a half ago. And I asked them, hey, I want to target some employers, tell me about what our students are saying, tell me about the industries they're looking for. Is there any employer names we should be going after that aren't active on campus as we would like? 3 or 4 of them spoke up, and I had to stop the conversation because I said, you guys haven't named a single industry, you haven't named a single company. What our students are asking for, what our new graduates are looking for, is a work opportunity that provides them career growth, that provides them with a good team. They're concerned with things like work-life balance or casual workplace, those types of things. Those are some of the keys of what's now Gen Z who's graduating out of school. Those are the types of things they're looking for. Employee resource groups, is there diversity in your organization? Those are all important things to today's student population, in addition to finding their passion that's connected with their degree. So how do you recruit at ASU? Again, ASU is gigantic. Now that's some of my team. We like to talk about our responsibility as we help make a large university feel small. We'll work with your organization to really figure out what is the talent you're looking for and help you pinpoint those opportunities. Now it all starts with the platform called Handshake. The URL for it is joinhandshake.com. All 3 of the state schools are on Handshake, and then likewise over 700 public universities. So if you want to recruit from Michigan, you can connect with the University of Michigan in Handshake and post jobs to their site. So you can go into Handshake, make sure that when you create your employer profile that you then ask to be connected with Arizona State University, because we're the most important one on Handshake. And then you can start posting positions and work with our team. We do have a team, our employer relations team, that can help guide you through that if you are getting stuck. But there's the opportunity for that. That's step 1 basic. As Eric mentioned, there's lots of opportunities for you to post positions out there, but this is a great platform, especially if you're looking for 4-year degree or graduate level talent. So the next step is just having a presence at campus. So this is kind of some of what we mentioned. If you're looking for a finance student, there's a club for that. If you're looking for, there's a women in STEM club. There's all different types of clubs and orgs that you can research on what's called Sun Devil Sync. It lists all the clubs and orgs, and it'll actually typically list some of their leadership or their faculty advisors on there, so you can reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in speaking, or I'm interested in providing some professional development. How can I get connected to your organization? So participate in student learning. So as Eric mentioned, and myself, capstone projects, any of our labs, a lot of our research, they're looking for input from the corporate sector. So there's opportunity for organizations to come in and create a capstone project or create some other type of learning experience that ASU will then take advantage of. Have our students work on the project for you, and that creates visibility and opportunity for your organization. So then once you're interacting with student clubs and orgs, there are some that actually offer sponsorship opportunities, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different organizations. Sometimes it's just, hey, pay for pizza at our club meeting, and sometimes it's $10,000. It really depends on the club and the demand for their talent, but there's definitely opportunities for that. As I mentioned, our alumni network. So I mentioned that I went to career services, ended up in business. I came back as an alum and asked for advice. So 10 years, I graduated, said I'm looking to change industries. I had been in a pretty narrow industry. It built a great network, but I wanted to get out of it. So ASU helped me do that and helped me get into nonprofit higher education, and it led me to the job I have now. My story is real, and we have alumni that reach out to us every day that are looking to either find a new employer or just find a whole new career altogether. And so there's opportunities to connect with alumni. How many Sun Devils? Do I have some Sun Devils here? Of course I do. So if you're a Sun Devil, you can participate in alumni events, and that's just great networking there. But likewise, Handshake is a platform that we encourage our alumni to go to. So you can post experience level positions in there too. If you're looking for somebody who has 5 years of computer programming experience or has been an accountant for 5 years and is ready to get their certifications in that, you can still post those positions, and there's a chance that there's talent in there for that. So coordinate with our corporate engagement department, which is Eric's team, and thinking about the other opportunities that are available on campus, whether that's considering real estate opportunities or other options that are available from the university. And then likewise, Eric will talk a little bit about our innovation zones at ASU and the opportunity for that. So, is there a question?
Yes, I was wondering if that's extended to parents of Sun Devils.
Parents of Sun Devils?
Yes.
That's taking advantage of
Yeah, exactly.
Paid all the tuition.
I'm the bank.
All right, thank you. Let's have some quick questions because we still have an agenda to follow.
Hi, I was wondering, not all the degree programs ASU offers are necessarily economically viable for students, particularly if they take on a massive amount of student debt that they may never be able to repay. So this is a question actually for your Board of Regents at one time who said they would look into it, but I'm going to ask you again. What do you do to counsel students away from degree programs that really aren't going to work out for them and put them in a very difficult financial situation down the road?
Yeah, well, I think for the new degree programs that are getting created, it's typically done with the feedback from industry, from corporations. So a lot of the newer programs were created because there's a demand for that. So, for example, our School of Sustainability. Lots of large organizations now have sustainability officers. They have initiatives around sustainability, and that's what that school can train for. I was one of those students. I mean, psychology degree, I went to career services, trying to find a job and realized, oh, I've got to go to 4 more years of school to make any kind of good income. Now, again, that's where not thinking about the educational side and what's going on with those programs, but thinking about how that wraps into career services, that's where the career interest communities come into play. And I can't speak for every degree program out there, but we help students who are in, especially those liberal arts programs, to take the skills that they've learned in their liberal arts program and pull that into a workforce. So whether that be through internships or other types of education, or just walking through their skills and the types of things they've learned. One of the things I would say as an employee, because I was in the transportation industry and I was working in body shops and repair shops, and I'd have one of the technicians ask me, well, what are you doing here? You've got a degree. And I said, well, I'm talking to you, aren't I? That was kind of my joke, is that I learned a lot of skills with my psychology degree that helped me in B2B relationships and helped me to kind of learn and grow through that.
And I think that's a question that a lot of higher education faces, that there are degree programs that we recognize don't have the same financial outcome as other degree programs. but I don't think that's purely the university's responsibility to address that issue. We have a parent in the back. I think that's something that as parents discuss with their children and young people, that they need to understand that's great that you're passionate about getting a degree in this field, but you also have to recognize when you graduate with a degree in this field, the financial reward is going to be limited. And one thing I feel really good about at ASU is I think the statistic is the average ASU student, the financial burden after you figure in grants, financial aid, all of those things, I think is less than $4,000 per year for an in-state student. And I think that's highly competitive from a four-year degree standpoint. Anywhere in the U.S., I think ASU is still a very economical higher education place to get your degrees. John, you probably have better numbers than that.
Well, I mean, the reality, there are published guides that show you for each degree program what the expected wage, what the median wage is. And that's one where the burden is, anyway, between, there are some students who are going to be passionate. They're going to be passionate about a program that may not pay as much. And it doesn't mean that at the university that we don't offer those programs. But we offer a wide variety, allowing people to follow their passion. And then we're grateful for Governor Ducey and others who have a teachers academy to be able to ensure that we address our teacher shortage and obviously trying to address wages and some other things. But that question is not as simple as sometimes it sounds.
But this whole conversation today has been about workforce development, and workforce development really starts with investing in education. That from the pre-K level, K through 12 level, to the higher education level, we in Arizona need to invest more in education in our young people. And if we do that, we're going to see better outcomes from a workforce development standpoint.
Correct.
The name's Alex Choi with Planet Startup. I want to thank all the speakers today, and thank you, both Eric and Travis, for your nutritious presentation. I was wondering if you have any additional insights into the entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship components of your data sets, your big data that's available to you. I understand you're producing a lot of great employees, but as a person active in the chamber, we all know that America is built on small businesses with 25 or less employees. And it is a true indicator, there's a question in there, it's a true indicator of the health of this nation. And I looked at the chambers all throughout the globe. The data proves out that's the case. In certain countries, it could be 10. 25 is an acceptable metric for me. So I was wondering, how are you doing in that front?
So in the interest of time, I will answer it with a follow-up. I think that probably would be a good future topic of conversation. We have an entire group, our E&I group, Entrepreneurship and Innovation at ASU. They work with the city of Chandler. That we really are making great strides in commercializing some of the research and the patent technology that's taking place at ASU. We're helping the students create startup projects. One of my success stories in the past couple of weeks is there's a student project that's looking to build a rocket. There's not many locations on campus where you can build a rocket, and so we actually found them a corporate partner that's going to allow them to build a rocket in their manufacturing facility and not charge these students because they see the value in what the students are trying to accomplish. So we have a tremendous leader, Jimmy Choi, who leads up our Entrepreneurship and Innovation group, and I will throw her under the bus with Brian for a future speaker to talk specifically about that topic, but we are making great strides in that category.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We're respectful of all of our members and their time today. We've got quite a full couple of announcements first of all. Thank you very much. I'd like to move on to the elected officials report update. So can I start with County Supervisor Jack Sellers, please.
Thank you. And I'll mention just very quickly that one of the companies that was mentioned earlier more than once, we have a person named Clint Hickman who is chair of the Board of Supervisors this year, and I think he's somehow associated with that company. Anyway, just very quickly, I will mention that everything we heard today has been very instructive to me, because one of the great expense items for Maricopa County is our jail system. And I've been encouraged that our new Maricopa County attorney seems to be very focused on criminal justice reform, and that's very important. But, you know, one of the things we've done even in our jail system is in the booking process, it used to take 2 or 3 days to get a person that was arrested before a judge for booking. What we found out is that in that period of time, that person loses a job. Sometimes they lose children. So now, instead of finding a way to correct a problem, you've made it worse. We now have video booking done in the jail within hours of the time they're brought in, so that we can eliminate a lot of that. Okay, well, I'll move on a little bit to some other stuff. We are in the process of selecting a new assessor for the remainder of this year. Applications for that appointment are due by next Monday, and we will move forward on that fairly quickly. Next Tuesday, the State Transportation Board is giving a presentation on the construction work that's going to take place about a year from now in the Broadway curve, and that's going to have a huge impact on this area. And I will bring that presentation out here to the East Valley Partnership probably at our next meeting, which is 2 or 3 months out. But I'll let everyone here know, because that's a $700 million project. It will replace all 5 bridges in the Broadway curve. It will be the most disruptive road construction project ever in Maricopa County. So I think it's going to be important that everyone here learn as much as they can about that.
Do you know how long it's supposed to take, how long it's going to take?
Well, it's going to be done in pieces, but the total project's going to take about 18 months.
I thought it was 18 years.
Typo.
We'll take that long to get it through committee.
And I think everyone here knows that one of the other major things we've been doing at the county is trying to correct a lot of the issues with voting. We have some new equipment that we think is going to make things a lot better for us. A lot of educational information being put out right now in various mediums to help people understand how to go about voting. And certainly, if anyone, we did have a presentation, I think, at the last meeting here on that. So anyway, I guess that's, I'll end it with that, since we are running kind of short on time, and I do have to be in Mesa by 10 o'clock.
All right, thank you, Jack. Our next elected official, Terry.
Thank you, Mike. First of all, I want to say thank you, Mike, for coming back. Are we all happy to see Mike?
Thank you.
Hey, it just wasn't the same without you, so we're happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
So this is a very special thing we have here. This is a great time for Chandler. And thank you all for being here. And there's a few new faces out here and some of the regulars. And but this is just one of my favorite programs. I love to come here and learn and get and share information. So that's terrific. I'll tell you, in Chandler, it's not the Maytag Chamber of Commerce. Things are happening here, and there's a lot of new businesses. In downtown, we've got Shiba Hut, Gadzooks, Burgers and Greens. These buildings here, the sister buildings, have been purchased by a company So many things are happening. In New Square, west of City Hall, that Hilton should open in March. So, wow, and the new parking lot, I've heard from a few folks that it has really helped as far as people being able to get a place to park and shop Chandler. So that's a good thing. And of course, we've got on the Price Corridor, Toyota Financial, 300 and some new jobs coming to Chandler. And so even in 2020, things are rocking. So that's just great news. I will tell you, I'm going to give a fair announcement on both of these events. On the 20th of February, Mayor Harkey is going to do his city address at the Chandler Center for the Arts. And that is going to be at 5:30 beginning, and there's going to be food and music and all sorts of things. At the same time, at the very same time, Chandler Chamber of Commerce is going to have their after-hours program at Hash Kitchen at 5 o'clock. So I hope that either this will get sorted out or in the next year this does not happen again. But we'd love to see you at both events, and I don't know how that works. But they're both going to be great events. I hope you'll at least come out and see, and for my part, see the mayor, give you an update on what happened this past year and what we look forward to. And I attended the Chamber of Commerce, their board meeting the other day, and they talked about some of the responsibilities of being a chamber member. And one of them is about friends. And so you all have, the chamber has leads groups and that sort of thing. But I will say that I want to, when I needed my air conditioning replaced or repaired, Steve's Ultimate Air, I knew a face, and he's a friend. He came out, and with no worry about impropriety or whatever, he came out, made a great repair, great service. And so that's what chamber members are about. So whatever service you're offering, come, be engaged with each other. If you don't know each other, figure it out. So I think that's largely it, folks. God bless you, Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Terry. Would you please help me? I have two things that I'd like to make an announcement about. First of all, there's going to be a memorial service for the former Chandler Mayor, Jerry Brooks. It's going to be held on Saturday, February 1 at 10 o'clock. If you would please make note of that, pass that along. We sure would like your attendance there. And that's going to be at the Chandler Center for the Arts. That's Chandler Center for the Arts, February 1 on Saturday at 10 a.m. for memorial service for Jerry Brooks, former mayor. The second announcement is, as you all know, this is an election year. So anybody that would like to sign up for the candidate interview, sign-up sheets are here. We then have a council that reviews our endorsements of who we are going to endorse for the year. So I do need some sign-ups. I have several already, but if you're interested as members of the Public Policy Group, feel free to. Thank you so much for your time. I told you I'd get you out of here by 9:30, and then look at that. Maybe 30 seconds. Hi, guys. Thank you.